أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is the 19th word, and we have finished discussing the first 9 droplets. Inshallah, we will continue from the 10th droplet. The 19th word regards the prophethood, and specifically it talks about the messengership of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So here the word refers to a specific person from one perspective. But while discussing, we also realized from another perspective, the word also talks about the messengership or prophethood in general. One part that I enjoyed was that the authors didn't lose different aspects, different colors of the painting. So for instance, he didn't lose the historical background. He didn't lose the message that the messenger carries. He didn't lose the personality of the messenger. So human side was there, the spiritual and intellectual side was there with the message. Our search for meaning, our search for purpose was there. And also the substantial reality of the topic, which partly look at the historical background, partly look at the present time, was also there. So it was neither too abstract nor too historic.
Generally, I guess the focus is going to be totally going to history here.
Yes, that's what we see usually. It is either totally historical or it is just ignored. And even when we discuss messengership, we find ourselves discussing Quran and Quranic message and nothing more. But here, authors nicely blended, mixed both aspects, along with many other aspects. So that was something I really enjoyed. And let's start with the 10th droplet. If there are no other comments or questions or maybe objections to what I said. The 19th word, 10th droplet in my book, it's page 247. Now look, what curiosity arousing, attractive, necessary, and awesome truths he shows, what matters he proves. You know that what impels men most is curiosity. Even if it was to be said to you, if you give half of your life and property, someone will come from the moon and Jupiter and tell you all about them. Interesting imagination. If you give half of your life and property, someone will come from the moon and Jupiter and tell you all about them. He will also tell you the truth about your future and what will happen to you. You would be bound to give them if you had any curiosity at all. Whereas that being tells of a monarch who is such that in his realm, the moon flies around the moon like a fly. And the moon the earth flutters around the lamp, and the lamp, the sun, is merely one lamp among thousands in one guest house out of thousands of that monarch. Also, he speaks truly of a world so wondrous and a revolution that is such that if the earth was a bomb and exploded, it wouldn't be all that strange. He speaks truly of a world so wondrous and a revolution that is such that if the earth was a bomb and exploded, it wouldn't be at all strange. Look, listen to surahs like when the sun is folded up. Quran 81:1. When the sky is cleft asunder. 82:1. The day of noise and clamor. Quran 101:1. Which he recites. Look, listen to surahs like when the sun is folded up, when the sky is cleft or cleft, when the sky is cleft asunder, the day of noise and clamor, which he recites. Also, he speaks truly about the future in comparison with which the future in this world is like a tiny mirage. And he tells most seriously of a happiness in comparison with which all worldly happiness is but a fleeting flash of lightning in relation to an eternal sun.
From the first sentence, he's touching upon what curiosity is and what curiosity arouses in man, right? So there's something within man that is the way in his innate disposition, where man is always curious. So again, if one is really focused and concentrated and trying to like be amazed and wonder at anything in the world, right? He is bound to be, questioning that. So the question will come to man. It's very human to have a question that would come, right? And the example that he portrays, right, where he says, if you gave half of your life and property, I'm not exactly sure what he means, but it's very far-fetched to really, it would be like not believable that if somebody would come from some other planet who would not know at all who I am, but like what my life is about and what this property is about, like coming from some very, out of this world and tells me about it. This doesn't happen right now. It's very impossible to find that. So this droplet is telling me that this is the kind of news that the curiosity is bringing, that this messengership or the messenger is bringing that kind of message that you will not find at all in this universe, right? So all that curiosity and questioning that you have the answer is not to be found really from within the universe, but a messenger is necessary to be able to bring that into the man's understanding.
I have one question, Asim, if you don't mind. I mean, you can answer it or someone else can try as well. Do you have any idea why he's talking about the moon, Jupiter, or like planets outside the other planets? Is it just for, give a extraordinary example, or Is there any specific reason?
I mean, I feel that because it seems impossible, like that somebody from the moon or Jupiter would know something that is on Earth. That's why I think that is just a metaphorical kind of example to highlight what it, like the extraordinariness of the news or the message that is coming. Because if somebody tells you what your life is, what the purpose of your life is, that's not to be found in this universe. Or whatever you possess in terms of your human qualities and what their purpose is, it's not to be found. I'm sorry about the bird. I don't know why it's making so much noise. But it's not to be found within the universe, and it's really telling the importance of and the seriousness and the amazing message that somebody is bringing to address this human, what the purpose of human is. Half of your life I understand as what your being, your human state of being is. Like at some point, let's say in my at some age, somebody comes to me and tells me, oh, why do you exist, why are you here in this world? There's meaning behind your life here, and whatever you possess as a human being, there are things that you have. Some of us may not even know that we possess all these, qualities within us, or these amazing features that features. I don't know why I'm using technological word, but features in terms of, the senses that we have and the feelings to come to our understanding of actually who we are as well. So there's this particular messenger or message is bringing that to my attention in that sense, like the seriousness and the amazing awesomeness of that.
So I was thinking, since he's giving such an example, I was asking myself, like, why do we really care about like other life forms in the galaxies and so on? Because I think there is no one in the world that would say, if an alien form visit us, wouldn't be excited. Probably there is no one. I was asking, like, why we, even with the strangers, like coming from another country or another continent, and this is the case, we are usually excited to meet them. I was asking, why this is the case. Maybe one answer is we always looking for a reference points, like for make comparisons. It goes back what Asim was saying. We always have this question in our minds, like, why I am here, or am I doing well? Am I doing the things that I'm supposed to do? And we're looking for some purpose, and we constantly asking whether we are close to the purpose that we are looking for. And I guess the people or strangers, people from other galaxies or other countries, they kind of like act as a reference point, as an opportunity to compare ourselves with others, to see, what are the differences, or what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. And when it comes to someone from another planet, I guess it becomes more obvious that we think whatever they say would expand our understanding of the reality in several forms. So I guess from this perspective, it makes sense when we think our own needs to know about our purpose, to know about the meaning of the life. Where am I? Where did I come, or where am I going to? Or what is my current state in life? When we have such questions, I guess strangers with completely different worldviews, or even completely different life forms, if we are able to communicate with them, would act as a good chance to improve our knowledge. And he nicely also ties this to our future, because it says whoever will visit us from Moon or Jupiter, he will also tell the truth about our life, our future, and what will happen to us. So our yearning, I guess, for knowing future, our yearning for what will happen to us, to know about this. So, yeah, so far I agree that we are in such a state.
I think this also reminds me of astrology. Even the most reasonable among us, most rationalist, whatever, if a conversation starts in terms of astrology, and if you ask this person, what is your, I don't know what do they say in English for this, which constellation?
Constellation, I guess something like that.
So which constellation do you belong to? I guess most likely anybody would have an idea about what their birth date fills into which constellation. So, and this had been the case throughout the history. And this is something we are at least curious about. Because this way or that way, there is this generalization saying that people that were born into Virgo, let's say, has this and this and this personal traits. And we listen to it and it says, wow, yeah, I'm really this sort of a person. So even this much of a, not even a pseudoscience, sort of a thing, arose our interest. So we pay a lot of attention to that because it's also having this mystical aspect of about our future, our tomorrow. Am I going to become rich? Oh, really? So then, but he's saying that we all pay attention to these sort of things. But look what sort of messages he is bringing. And then you decide yourself if this sort of message is worthy of being curious about.
I guess it doesn't matter how or from what source your curiosity was pleased or suit, maybe. Like whether it's astrology, whether someone from Jupiter or true science or whatever. I guess what matters here is that we have such a curiosity. Like no matter what background you are from, no matter what education you receive or you had to receive, you have such a curiosity. Everybody wonders what future brings, what future will bring for us.
Right, we have that question like, where are we going, right, as we discussed previously also. Like those questions are always with us. Like, what is our life? Where are we coming from? Where are we going? What is our purpose? And so that, yeah, as you were saying, Berkan, and also Yusuf, so that always, there is that thing. And even if somebody like astrology, as you mentioned, with all the mention of the planets and, somebody tells you about your future, yeah, I mean, definitely, you are curious to know what do they have to tell me about what my future holds, because I have that within me to know what is it, what is my purpose, where am I going? That is part of me. So I need that particular message or messengership to tell me what is going on, because the universe is not really telling me. The earth, my bounds are within this earth, right? And that there is no answer coming on where am I going.
There's another point Like when I first read this, when he talks about someone from Moon or the Jupiter, it sounds funny. But then I thought that this is actually what we do currently. Like we're waiting for, we spent, I don't know how much, but probably billions of dollars for research to, to process signal from outer space, searching for alien life forms, sending all these spacecrafts and so on. We like desperately looking for someone or something occur or emerges in the outer space and tell us about ourselves. Like this is what we do as even in the scientific community. We do not admit that what we are doing is for this purpose. Like we waiting for something comes and tell us, oh, this is your reality. We put it in a fancy scientific sentences like, we will learn about the evolution of life in Earth. We will find the roots of the life and so on. But what we are looking for in reality is we will find something in outer space and it will tell us, he or she or it doesn't matter, it will tell us what we are. So this is like unintended admission, acknowledging that we cannot find the solution or answers ourselves. We need someone from outside. We need someone from outer space. Sure, I mean, if you put it in that way, nobody will accept, probably, no one from NASA. But this is what we do. We admit that we cannot find the answers ourselves. We need someone out there, someone green or I don't know, with big eyes, doesn't matter, but someone outside should come and tell us what we are. So again, I don't know if the author was intentional there, like intentionally gave this example. I'm not sure about his time, if there were such search for life in space or any space exploration, but it nicely fits to our situation. It's not funny at all. Like it is funny, but it's not just funny imagination, silly imagination at all. This is what we do. Goes back to Elon Musk again. Right? All the money he spends just to go to the Mars. Like we are so curious about what is there. So, any other comments so far? Before we go to what message he brings.
I guess here, because I was thinking about stock market, the people that make investments in stock market are watching TV or online, constantly following the stock market at internet, and very looking forward to anybody who gives some sort of tips in terms of which of the stocks are going to increase, so that I'm going to make my investment in them. And it's going to be very valuable if somebody can give a very accurate tip, which is going to be the most rising stock within the next 2 months, whatever. So we should ask the question is, how much relevant is that for me? And it might sound very relevant because I'm going to get rich, I'm going to get a happier life, whatever. So now he's going to contrast such stuff to what might be better of a thing that would arouse curiosity in me.
Even though these questions are silly in themselves, like spending your time or life sometimes with the stock market or constellations and so on. But what they refer to is so critical in reality. Like, they all remind us that this is our state. We are so desperate to learn about our future. We are so desperate to control our future. And this very human reality that we are looking for any information about the future, it manifests itself in these silly forms in worldly life. Like sometimes it manifests itself as spending time in stock market. Sometimes it manifests itself, shows itself as interest in constellations. Sometimes in other forms. Sometimes as a science. But what all these things together jointly tell us that Birkan, or tell me, is Birkan, you are dying to know and maybe control your future. Any news from future is so valuable to you. Look at how you live your life. Look at how different ways you show these intense willing to know about the future.
So I was talking to a friend, and he was planning to take this USMLE exam.
What exam?
USMLE, for the medical doctor. So, and for that he says that he wakes up at 5, works until 8, then comes to work. When he goes back home, he spends 1 hour with his wife and studies back to medicine until he goes to bed. And he says this has to continue up until 2020. So like 2 years plan ahead. He says he was thinking about what if, let's assume I get the exam, I passed it, and I was diagnosed with cancer, he says. So if he knows...
What if, right?
Yeah, what if.
Okay.
What if? And he, for sure, if he were to know it by now, and if somebody guarantees him that, okay, you're not going to have cancer, he would certainly work with more enthusiasm. Because, well, at least it's worthy. If I'm going to live a life 10 years more, then it works to become a medical doctor. But if not, who cares? Because you're going to work hard, and after the exam, you passed it, and okay, here's the cancer, you are dying in 2 months.
Very relevant to what you said, there's a comment from iPhone. It says iPhone, there's no name. It says looking for security. I guess our need for any information about the future is somehow related to our search for security. Whoever iPhone is, I think the comment was valuable. Yes, looking for security, I guess one keyword here. Any other comments, questions? Otherwise, we can continue with what Messenger brings. I'm leaving the mic to whoever wants to ask questions. So I see there's no questions or comments. Let's continue then. This is our state. We said we looking for any means of knowing about the future, our future specifically. And then author says, whereas that being, the translation is being, in Turkish it's zat, and zat is the first third person, right? It's not just being in general. Okay. Whereas that person tells of a monarch who is such that in his realm, the moon flies around the moon like a fly, and the earth flutters around a lamp, and the sun is merely one lamp among thousands in one guest house out of thousands of that monarch. So I guess he's somehow giving us the importance of the news he brings. He was saying you would be so curious about Jupiter or Moon, but the message, I guess magnitude here in magnitude, the comparison here is in magnitudes. So otherwise it's not about the planets. But while you were curious about Moon or Jupiter, so the message tells you about the monarch who controls all the planets you can think and you cannot think of. It's way beyond the Moon or Jupiter. And I guess the scope of the news or scope of the message is so wide that you cannot even imagine. This is how important it is to you. Or in other way, maybe in other words, this is how curious you should be about it. And I really like the examples, like when he says the moon flies around the moat like a fly, and the earth flutters around the lamp. But from one perspective, it shows that how insignificant moon or earth is as compared to the rest. It's just like a fly, or just like a moth, or just like a lamp. But from another perspective, it also portrays a how to say, like a romantic picture. The relationship between the moon, earth, and the sun, as if it telling us like nothing is just random. There's always a meaning between things. There's always a relationship between things. Just like there's a relationship between you and your mother, there's a relationship between earth and sun. The moon likes, enjoys sun. Sun acts as a lamp.
I think this part also is important. Sun acting as a lamp. And this is how Quran is talking about sun. So sun being a lamp implies as if I am a guest in here, in the guest house. And in this guest house, the owner of this house has so many lamps. Sun is one of them. So now this is starting to interpret the existence, saying that what's the purpose of existence? Purpose of existence is you are being guest of someone for whom sun is a lamp, which is to be used to enlighten you, warm you up, so on and so forth. So in itself, this is defining the meaning of existence also. Otherwise, sun is like this huge fireball over there, which is our Earth was part of it, and somehow randomly, at some point of time, because of explosion, we ended up being here, sun is left over there. It doesn't tell much. Although I would be curious to hear about that story, how the world was once part of the sun, and now it's separated from sun. Quranic perspective for the same thing is, it is saying that sun is a lamp of the one who is your landlord in here, who makes you as a guest, and he puts the sun over there for enlightening you as a lamp, and also as a stove to warm you up. Because astronomy is also trying to answer our curiosity about the nature of sun. Quran is also addressing our curiosity about the nature of sun. But Quran uses the words that Mercy is using in here. Sun is a lamp. And to me, it makes more sense saying that what is the utility of describing me as the sun being this fireball over there? It just scares me. That's all. What if one day it's going to run out? But if
this is what they say, right?
Yeah.
It will run out one day.
But if as Quran describes it, saying that it's a lamp, and somebody is taking care of that lamp and put there for you there, then I start having a personal relation with the sun and the owner of the sun. And it becomes a meaningful light over there. It's not scaring me. So I'm saying that as long as he wants it to be there, as long as he wants to enlighten me with light, I am happy to benefit from it. If he wants to turn it off, then it's the owner of the house. I'm happy with my, what's it? That's how I do.
Guest, well, the host.
I'm happy with my host. So if I'm sure that if he turns it off, he's going to do something else. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
It, I guess, even goes beyond making sense. It touches my spirit. I like it. I mean, can you imagine somebody put this giant ball there as a lamp for you, like personally for you? It's so lovely. It's so, make you so emotional. Like whenever you feel insecure, you just look at sun and say that, I'm being taken care of with this giant ball. I always say sometimes, when a friend or someone tells me that, oh, but it is too hard, I cannot do it, right? I say, you don't need to do it, just let him to do. He can even put a sun, like a giant ball there as a lamp for you. I'm sure he can also handle this. This is so touching, this is so personal. When he says, we put the sun as a lamp for you, this is so personal. It's not anymore like a description of an event or something. It's not like the astronomy textbook describing the sun. It's about me now. I enjoy it. I like it.
Even we can see it as, he put it as a stove for cooking my food. Like all the fruits and everything is being cooked in this light, in this stove, sort of. So he is also cooking my food with this stove. So you really feel like you're a guest.
Yeah.
And this is why Lucy is in here saying that the sun is merely one lamp among thousands in one guest house out of thousands of that monarch.
So with this guest house, like I think it's like a tricky word. When I first heard it, I was only getting the idea that, oh yes, I'm in a guest house, I'm just a guest, so it's permanent, it's temporary, I will go away one day. But it comes more than that, because when someone is your guest, you take care of her or you take care of him. Like especially considering the context that the text was written. Someone who lived in Turkey at that time, with Anatolia, whatever. The hospitality is so important, right? When someone talks about the guest house, it's not only to tell you that you are you're not staying here permanently. It's also telling you that there's a host taking care of things. You don't have to worry about your food. Somebody will serve you. You don't have to about the electricity. Somebody will serve you. There's a lamp in every room. So I just realized I always miss this point when we talk about guest house. And one suggestion, one recommendation for everyone, when we read such analogies or story-like explanations, narrations, like sun being the lamp, the earth being like a cradle, is it cradle? Cradle. I think, yes, it is there maybe to make things clear for us. But also, I really believe, like the way they are constructed or the examples given, they are specifically chosen. I guess we should put ourselves in these analogies, especially when it is coming from crime. We should ask ourselves, like, how do I feel like when earth is my cradle? How do I feel like when sun is my lamp? I guess we should ask these questions. Don't just take them as analogies. Ask yourself, how do you feel? Then it becomes more lively, it becomes more personal.
I think these are all in this context at least. It seems like they all boil down to the point that like how you use your curiosity. Seems like that's the main point here. At least what I understood from the text. There's this curiosity like in man that can be used for many like different ways. And there is this like tremendous like events out there that is taking place every second. And are you using your curiosity to understand the reality of the events and its relation to you? So there is a purpose in the curiosity that is given to you as well. There is a reason why it's given to you. And there is a way how it's supposed to be used. Like anything else, like you can either waste it or you can utilize it for the purpose that it's given for.
And purpose in relation to you, as you said. Whereas this part in relation to you is very important. This is kind of our motto now, I think, for several months or weeks. Like, we shouldn't forget that it's all about us. Like, whatever we study, we shouldn't forget that we are part, or not only a part, but the center of the equation.
Osman, can you explain what you were saying? The curiosity, you have to relate it to something? What was your point on that?
I did not hear the question.
Asim, could you repeat the question, please?
No, because I didn't understand it properly. His voice was going a little up and down for me, what Osman was saying, but he was saying it's really important that we relate what the curiosity is, right? Relate to something, right? Don't just leave the curiosity hanging in there for it's there, yeah, that's it, but relate it to something. That's what I was understanding, but then I lost what the point he was making.
I will just, I think, repeat what I said. It seems like in this, like, the 10th droplets, the main point is the curiosity. And like, man is giving curiosity and it can be used in many different ways. And it seems like here author is like, almost like exciting the idea or the emotion, how the curiosity is supposed to be used. Because it can be used many different ways, and curiosity also has like it has a purpose, and it has a reason why it's given to you. And in this context, like it seems like he's telling you how you are supposed to use the curiosity and understand the tremendous events that are taking place in the universe, and understand their relation to you. And it is only possible to make sense of like the events around you, and also their relation to you, if you are using the curiosity and asking the questions. Because like anything else or any other like faculties that man is given, it can be wasted for futile like things, going after the futile things, or it can be used for more existential issues, and use it as an like almost like a tool to extract like knowledge in a way.
Got it. So fine-tune that curiosity and direct it to how to use it properly, basically direct it in the right direction. Right, that's basically. And also the example that he says, I mean, about, as Yusuf was making the point that you notice he's using from the kind of the vocabulary from the Quran, right? When he mentions about the, you know, the rotations of the moon and the sun, and also in the analogy, you know, how he's presenting like what this messenger is bringing. He said this being tells of, you know, the qualities or the amazing things that we observe, that is being taken care of, as Berkan was mentioning about when he said about the guest house. But this being is telling about that there is someone who is taking care of all these things that you are seeing around you. And although the moon and flies round a moth like a fly, I mean, this is something we can observe in the universe, that how a moth is, you know, or a fly is rotating around a moth, or, right? So that is something experiential and observable. And going with, when one questions and has that curiosity, is aroused at questioning that particular event of this, the way the fly is moving, right? So just imagine like with how is that happening, that phenomena, and what such an ease that it is going through. And just look at that, how the moon is doing the same thing with such an, you know, with the same ease. It's like, who is arranging all this? Who is this monarch who is in charge of this? So I'm getting to know, like really, wow, wondering, my curiosity is really leading me to get to know, you know, how powerful or how really wonderful and amazing this monarch is, who is taking care that these things are not left on their own devices. They're not happening, or the fly is not moving around by its own force or by its own, you know, the way by itself, that there is a monarch or some source behind it. And this is, you know, the quality of how this monarch who is making all these things work that way.
Should we continue? Also, he speaks truly of a world so wondrous and a revolution that is such that if the earth was a bomb and exploded, it wouldn't be at all strange. So what should we understand from that part? He speaks truly of a world so wondrous and a revolution that if earth was a bomb, we wouldn't find it strange. Any ideas what's happening here?
I mean, I can understand the second part where he says if the earth was a bomb and exploded, it would not be all that strange, because, you know, going back to the, what kind of a monarch is this who owns and is arranging and taking care of things, and to such an extent and with such ease. I think that's what Adam is also pointing out. I'm going to read his comment, since it's related. The ease in which he brings such complicated and unattainable ideas is interesting. And so I guess along the same lines, I think the first part about talking about the reality of what we can observe in the universe, the revolutions that go around of the earth and the moon and the sun, which are like momentous, like they're huge, humongous. It's impossible for like anybody to actually be controlling that. So it again ties to, for me at least, ties to the this particular monarch who does all these things with such ease. And so, I mean, it's so reassuring that there's somebody who is taking care of all these revolutions, and whatever happens, like even if it's doomsday or something, or the earth exploded, know that it's all being taken care of and purposefully being done by this monarch, and it will not feel that it's an accident, it just happened by itself. So it will not feel strange at all.
Reading it again, so the way I understand this part is the word, when he says speaks truly of a world, it's not refers to earth, it refers to, I think, what comes.
Existence, I would say.
Yes, it's put the existence in a form which is so wondrous, and it's like a revolution for us, because we never thought the existence in that way before. So we didn't take life in that form before, ever. It's so revolutionary for us. It's so amazing for us that even Earth was a bomb and exploded, it wouldn't be that amazing or that revolutionary for us.
And I think there are, I'm seeing a few layers of meaning in here. So the first one is, if someone today comes and tells me that you are going to die at this certain date, this would have been the most important news for me for several years, because then I don't need to make my plans accordingly. Everything would change. My life would change from now on. Today, if somebody comes in and tells me that 5 years, 10 years, 10 days, whatever, definitely I will change, no matter how long they tell me. I will change for sure. So it's an important news for me. And now if someone comes and tells that the world is going to explode this many years later, whatever, it's again going to be a big news. And this is why this global warming, this and that are being, having some value, information value. But no, he's saying that if he were to give news, his news are much more than the world exploding. But if you look at how this Armageddon stories are like, actually they are talking about explosion of Earth. So now Nursi is saying that the news that he brings about Armageddon, as you read them, is much more than world exploding, really. So it's not only world just coming to an end. Either it is, first of all, looking to your life, and you can read all those Armageddon stories as signifying your own explosions here and now, each and every moment. Things are changing, everything is going into non-existence, as if this world is exploding at every single point. Those verses reminding us of the temporary nature of life on earth makes us question, where am I going to? This is why these verses are so important. It's not talking about, once in the future, this world is going to explode. So what? I'm not going to see it. Most likely it's not going to explode within 60 years to come. So I'm not worried about that. It's not big news for me. Forget about it. Instead, it is reminding me of, even this world is going to come to an end. Now look at yourself. You are dying day to day. Where are you going? So this is really how I should be reading all those verses. It is reminding me of temporary nature of this life, which makes...
It is attracting your attention to the tremendousness of the events taking place in the universe.
Right now, yeah.
Right now.
So that I'm going to ask the question, where am I going to? Because I am yearning for eternity. And these verses are saying that even the world is not eternal. The thing that you would consider as permanent, it's not permanent. You need evidence for that. look around yourself, look at yourself, everything is dying. This one is also going to die. So this is why such a news is much more valuable than the world exploding 1,000 times.
That's funny. Before sharing my idea, Adam wrote a few comments. The first one was, I guess, just after my question of what we understand from this wondrous and revolutionary new creation and Earth being a bomb. Adam says the ease in which he brings such complicated and unattainable ideas is interesting. I guess with he, Adam refers to the prophet, I'm just guessing. He says the ease in which he brings such complicated and unattainable ideas is interesting. And then recently he also wrote the familiarity and meaning of the things. Familiarity and the meaning of the things. I'm not sure he...
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, that would be great, Adam, if you...
Sorry. So I'm surrounded by a lot of children, and I'm writing kind of in cryptic way. I'm sorry. But what I was trying to say was, yeah, I think carrying on from what you have all said, this being, what he refers to as a being, is, because at this point it's kind of constructing, it seems like, our understanding of messengership, or I won't go into that point, but anyway, this being is speaking about such unattainable things, right? Like you all said, I mean, who really knows about the things going on at the astronomical level? But is bringing it up in a very easy way, like a layman can understand. This is a point I think maybe someone's already said, but I just wanted to emphasize it. I mean, a layman can benefit from these descriptions in a way that it makes a layman familiar and kind of aware of the world and the universe in a meaningful way. You don't need a PhD to understand how this, the way that it's described, the PhD benefits, the layman benefits, but meaning that it is so easy, it is so accessible within all layers of human beings, but yet is really, if you think about it, bringing something that's so beyond the realm of human beings in a way. So that was like the first point I was trying to say. The second part about it was I understood this. A world so wondrous and a revolution so momentous that if the earth was a bomb and exploded, it would not be strange that the human being then, through this message, says that the things here have meanings. Like they're meaningful, they have a purpose for them. It is not like the materialists say, its purpose is material. No, he doesn't care about the material usage of the world. Even if it was all to explode, he knows that these things signify another meaning. I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise here. So I hope that makes sense.
Jazakallah khairan, that was very helpful. And I really like what you said. And it's really nice to have you. Thank you for joining. The first part is, when you say it like it's so accessible to everyone, as if it's even accessible to a layman. You were saying. I've been thinking about this like a few years back. When I was part of the discussion there, somebody said something like, the Quran tried to speak to a layman, but because we have, we know a lot, we have, as you were saying, PhDs and so on, of course we should be able to, extract more meaning out of it. As if saying that the Quran just gives you the bare minimum, just for the layman, and it's your duty to learn or understand more. This idea somehow, came to me very strange. although my ego was there to telling me that, oh yeah, maybe that's true. But then I realized that actually the hard one to attain, like the hard part to understand, is the layman's perspective. This is what we miss all the time. Like before Quran tells me, sun is your lamp, I never ever, like I received all this education, right, all these years, but I never thought sun was there as a lamp for me. Sun was serving something for me. I never thought that way. So I guess all these education, all these like PhDs or titles, whatever, forget about helping. They even occlude, like covers our understanding. So it is the layman's perspective which is valuable, which is hard to attain, which is what we should be after. At least, this is what I think personally, and I sincerely believe that.
I may be confusing, but having some sort of worldly titles, whether it be like in terms of education or like any other sort, when it comes to understanding the man's own reality, especially don't want to say religion. When it comes to like man's own reality, it absolutely has no value, no meaning actually. So like in that sense, you cannot really categorize the people based on the titles or the education, saying that this person is a layman, this person is not a layman, this should understand more, this shouldn't. Like, I don't think that category, when it comes to understanding the reality of man's own reality, I don't think that categorization really works. I think when it comes to understanding the reality of this existence, what determines being a layman or not a layman, regardless of what the titles are, I think it comes from the drive and the curiosity of the individual and how much he is or she is after the truth. There are levels. And some people may have more like a burning desire to understand the truth more than the others. And there maybe you can speak of like layman terms, because not every person may have the same level of desire to attain the truth, like as much as he can, or whatever like the truth is for the person. So I think that term should be defined in a different way. Like
yeah, in different contexts, I guess it means different things. What I was saying is, like I encountered an understanding, I heard an understanding in a discussion that Quran speaks to simple-minded men so that he or she can understand. But of course, the reality is much more than this. So that was the way they used the layman. And what my realization is the thing as we call as a simple-minded man's idea is what is it that being really hard to attain? It's not something to ridicule or use in a derogatory way. It is what is there to attain. Like it's very hard to attain such an understanding. And going back to what Yusuf was saying about Earth exploding and Armageddon and so on, just like at the beginning, I said he gives these silly examples, the man coming from Moon and Jupiter, but in reality, even today, this is what we are after. I guess same goes here too, like Earth being a bomb and then exploding. And you think it's a silly example, but I mean, if you just, listen carefully what you hear in news or from people in academia and so on, people always talk about this. Like there will be a virus which will, eliminate the human life. There will be rock which will hit the earth, it will destroy. There will be something which will destroy the human life or the earth. That's all they talk. That's the reason they trying to go to Mars or somewhere, like desperately. Because earth will explode. So, again, for some reason, it's not a silly example at all. It's, what we are talking about all the time. Like we are so afraid that one day the earth will explode. Literally or, what is the opposite of literally? Metaphorically. Yes. Figuratively, literally, metaphorically. This is what we always talk about. The earth one day will explode. And the interesting part, as Yusuf was saying, like our real worries are even more serious than this. I mean, yes, when I think about such possibilities that one day there will be an epidemic which will kill all the life forms on Earth, it strikes you, it makes you sad, it makes you think. But when I think about, my own dad, or when I think the way Quran explains the final hour, it's much more serious. It's much more wondrous. Another thing that just struck my attention is, on one end, he talks about the earth exploding. But the way Quran describes, it's like a transformation. It's not going to non-existence, not like going, just like a bomb exploding and vanishing. The way Quran describes the final hour, it's like a transformation. Like the sun, what's that? Sun is folded up, the sky is cleft asunder, the day of noise and clamor. As if, a huge machinery is working, the parts are moving, and having a new shape, a new form. Like there's such a big difference between these two. One is giving you a direction or like a path to follow. Because after this transformation, obviously something new comes. The other is just a silly of the pessimism, saying the world will explode, the earth will explode.
So I guess reading in between lines to summarize, in here Nursi is also saying how to read those verses in Quran which talks about doomsday. Not to take them simply as the world exploding. He's saying that these news are 10,000 more furious than the world exploding. So the verses in Quran talking about doomsday is not about this material world coming to an end. Instead, it is telling me something about my own end in here, which is to define my own purpose of existence in here again. So reading these messages of the messenger from that perspective. So do not take it as he is telling you about what's going to happen to this earth, this sphere of earth, in I don't know how many years from now, 1,000, 5,000, 100 million years later. It's not about the geological description, but it's about the news very much about myself, my end in here. This is why it is much more curious. It's not only about beginning or end of the sphere of earth. And these were, Dr. Ali was mentioning this a lot. He says these were the surahs that were revealed at the time of Mecca. So at the very beginning, or the first part of Revelation, came those verses, came those surahs, chapters, because it reminds us of our own end, or the so that we question the purpose of our existence in here.
It is interesting, like being reminded of your end at the beginning of the journey. But it makes perfect sense, because with such an end point, or let's say such a reference point, you can mention a journey. Like otherwise you just walk in empty space.
And because this way or that way, we should have some sort of plans. And we maybe have, I was saying that if someone comes in and tells me that you're going to die in 5 days, 5 years, 5 months, whatever, I'm going to change. Because it's now defining me as you said, reference point with which I need to make my plans accordingly. And if I'm thinking that, which is really the case, I'm not going to die ever, because this is not in my perspective at all. I am then living my life accordingly. So somebody comes and tells me that, no, you are going to die, then everything now changes. Because then I need to reconsider my life by keeping that in perspective. So reminding of death is a very important reminder for seeking for purpose in life. Without that in perspective, then we are living freely as if we are never going to die, as if I have no limits, the world has no limits, that nothing is going to be there, no morality, I wouldn't care about anybody, because who cares? So death in this case is being a good reminder.
Not only from like a fear perspective, but it puts meaning in everything it touches. That's really interesting. Like we see the death usually as a destruction, but in reality, the death gives the meaning. The death gives the existence to things, like from in our perspective. Like in context of a journey, for instance, without the end, without death, if somebody tells me that, Birkan, you are walking, I would say, okay, I will take the next step, who cares? And if I'm just walking in the empty space, there is no purpose, there is no end goal or anything, I would just, keep walking or maybe stop walking. But when there is an end point that I'm going to reach, I will constantly check myself if I'm, astray or not. If I'm going on the right path or not. If there's an end point, if there's a goal, if there's a purpose at the end, there's a meaning of each step I take. Otherwise, just like, I don't know, have you heard Brownian motion? You just take a random step and, in combination, as a summation, you end up with somewhere. I don't want to take such a journey, right? I don't want to take random steps. I want every step being purposeful, being meaningful. And death gives this meaning. So alhamdulillah, we have that. Alhamdulillah, we will die.
I wanted to add a few things to the discussion. Just a couple things on just my thoughts on what you guys have all said. First, with respect to, wanting to know the future or being very curious. Like you all said, it's a human quality, and it's very interesting that even though we're living in the present, however fleeting it may be, where our concern is always about something that we can't penetrate into, we can't reach out to. It's impossible to know. And you know, this awareness of the end of this existence, even our own death, in a sense, that's probably the most important and really the only important knowledge about reality that matters. And we know that because you don't need to be told that. It's already within you. It's as if the news already been systematically ingrained within you, encrypted within you. Anyone you ask, they know, whether they're aware of it or not, they know they must die, and they know the universe must come to an end. It's sort of an intrinsic quality of man. And this is different than knowing, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to eat tomorrow? You can't really know that, and it signifies that that's not really that important to the human being in a terms of existential sense. So, it's sort of divine mercy that the human being hasn't been encrypted with this sort of awareness of reality. And the Quran and the Prophet are just simply, they're not giving anything new. There's no new news there. It's simply a reminder of what we already know and may just not be willing to accept or choose to ignore. So in that regard, that really is the most important future news we have, and it's already within us. And the second thing I wanted to add was the distinction between, when this question was about whether the Quran speaks to a layman, a simple man, or one who's highly educated. I take it for myself in that anyone, no matter how well educated they are, is a simple man if they don't understand the essence or the meaning of a thing, what it truly signifies. That makes somebody a simple man, whether he holds a PhD or not. For example, you can diagram all aspects of the cosmos. You can come up with a theory of everything, but in the end, what does it really mean if you didn't really get the essence from it, its meaning from it? That, yes, it's well constructed, but it's going to come to an end as well. And that's what makes somebody educated, informed, is that aspect of reality. Because anyone can.
You disconnected, so what is that makes somebody what?
I said that is what makes somebody a simple man, is not being aware of the essence of a thing. Anyone can go and learn about the cosmos, about reality, but what distinguishes between simplicity and reality is whether they're able to penetrate into the meaning of something.
Michael, when I made that comment, I don't think I was clear. I'm not trying to go back and justify. I'm just saying that these are very huge topics in terms of, the universe coming to an end. The whole world becoming a bomb and exploding. I mean, these are huge, galactic things. If anyone was to hear you say, I know what's going to happen, or if somebody just comes out and starts saying, one day the universe will be destroyed, the sky will be cleft asunder, right? The immediate general response, I'm not talking about the believers. The general response is, did you travel there? Are you working for NASA somewhere that you really have some physical details about this? Are you so? But even that too would still not really even give someone insights into this. What I was trying to say was, these are very big topics, or big, obviously existential issues really, but they are somewhat connected to the universe. How do you bring something like that into the realm of tiny man? Well, I'm not talking about just PhD or layman. No, I'm just saying mankind to begin with. How can you bring such big things into the realm of mankind's understanding? Is what I was trying to say mostly with that comment. Meaning that, look, even a simple person, like like you're saying, even if he's an educated, but he doesn't know the essence of what life is for, what the meaning of these things really are, he's not really educated. I mean, how many people would contend with these verses that are maybe PhDs? They would say, this is foolish. Muhammad was sitting in Arabia in deserts, and he's talking about the, galactic events that are happening, how ridiculous. They can't at all accept that, something like this, because from their hardened material point of view. But what I'm saying is, look, a man who can be in such simple conditions, I'm not talking about the messenger of God, but I'm talking about even agricultural man in Pakistan or something like that, reads these verses and becomes fully at ease about his own death, about the earth shaking underneath him if he goes through an earthquake, and he has no problems facing these things. I was trying to say something like that, that's really amazing to me, which kind of, I guess, I should say, leads me to this point. When it says here, also he speaks truly of a world so wondrous. I don't know what a world so wondrous refers to. Exactly, we could discuss it, but I take it to mean the meaning side of this universe. The meaning side of this universe is a world so wondrous that even if everything was to be destroyed in front of you, because you have a meaning for what's going on through the messenger's teachings, that it doesn't matter. Let those things happen. Because you have now entered into a world so wondrous through the teachings of the messenger of God that everything is meaningful, and you can see the meaning in these things. That's if that makes sense.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you, everyone who's contributing. Asim, I guess he's trying to address or answer Adam's question about the world so wondrous. He says paradise, question mark. I assume he means maybe author referring to paradise. And he adds another world. So
so that's what I was thinking on when this being speaks truly of a world so wondrous and revolution so momentous, and when he talks about the earth exploding and then he relates that to all these verses of what Yusuf was saying about the doomsday, reminds of that, like when the sun is really that we see that, and then we really do not imagine that one day this will be folded up, or when the sky is cleft asunder, the day of noise and clamor. So it does put a picture in my mind, at least, that don't be surprised, like this is not the only world, but this is something for me to, this being is telling me that this is something for me to know about this monarch, what kind of the monarch is he, or this being who is really taking care of all these things. And then there is a world, which will answer my curiosity of where am I going? What is my destination? So this world that I experience here cannot be my destination. So that's what I thought, that this is how it's referring to, that other world, that there isn't a world that I am meant for. My human side is meant for that world, which we call as paradise.
To go back to Adam's point about this destruction of the universe, and with regards to, for example, a scientist saying this is all hogwash or it's ridiculous. Yeah, I would say both. That individual, sort of like a materialist philosopher, a scientist, and likewise a person who reads the Quran. By and large, they probably do it for the same reason. They look at the material aspect of a thing. For example, quite often I hear when somebody reads a passage of the Quran, particularly that which deals with paradise or doomsday or resurrection, they're always looking at the thing itself, materially speaking. They're always concerned about the material aspect of it, never asking, what does it mean to me right now? What does it all mean fundamentally? And that's the question both overstep. In a sense, they both kind of make the same mistake. This materialist philosopher, he's concerned about the actual destruction of the cosmos, the mechanism. And someone who believes and reads the Quran, and he's going to say, well, I'm concerned about particularly how do these things happen? How is one going to be resurrected? How is paradise going to be? Never either asking, okay, what does it all mean? If the universe is going to be destroyed, if there is going to be a resurrection, what does it all mean, at least as it pertains to my humanity? Is this something I want, I long for or yearn for? And if there is a destruction of the cosmos, what does that mean to my life as it is right now?
These are all great points, taking the subject from our own perspective. Even the doomsday, which, if you take it as a literally, you will not see it in a near future. That's what we imagine, at least. But still, it has a face looking to you.
Yeah, it reminds me of the hadith, where, the famous, everybody knows, where the Prophet says, even if the hour is upon you and you're planting a tree, continue to plant it. The man least concerned about the destruction of the cosmos is the Prophet himself. And he's the one that brings the news or reminder to the people about the destruction of the cosmos. He's the least concerned about its occurrence. He's most concerned about what does it mean for the human being. The human being's figuratively planting a tree. That's his concern at that time. Or another famous narration where he's giving a sermon and a man asks him in the middle of the sermon, when is the hour, and he ignores him. And at the end of the sermon, he asks, who was that man that asked me the question? And the man says it was me. And he asks him, what have you prepared for it? It's not really, his concern is only what it indicates, it signifies. And just like that man who stood up in the sermon, I feel like that's what, even somebody who believes, his preoccupation is, when is it? What is it? How is it? Never, what am I to do with it? What is it to me? To use one of Nursi's passage last week on the weekend, but what is it to me? That's the question.
And in the next paragraph, he ties the topic very nicely. It says, also he speaks truly about a future in comparison with which the future in this world is like a tiny mirage. And he tells most seriously of a happiness in comparison with which all worldly happiness is but a fleeting flash of lightning in relation to an eternal sun. So I guess this all goes back to what Asim was saying about paradise or what comes after. I have one question before you can start your own questions or comment. He says here and in the previous paragraph as well, he says he speaks truly. Again here, he says he speaks truly. And also he says he tells most seriously. Why is it that? Like, why he just don't say he speaks or he tells? What is the point of saying he speaks truly or he speaks seriously?
He's not making predictions, I guess, because as we were giving the example of someone who predicts about the future of stock market, we were ready to pay a lot of money to them so that they're going to give us a reasonable hint so that we make our investment and earn a lot of money. Might be true, might not be true. He might just be a speculator, but we are very much into buying into such stuff. This person is talking about things which are which has solid ground. So he's talking about truth. He's not making up stories for amusing me. He's talking about truth, and he's serious about what he's talking.
I guess it also goes back to our seriousness about the topic, right? Our seriousness about being happy. Or when it comes to future, as you were saying, we're not interested in predictions, but we want the truth. What will happen? So I guess truth or seriousness here also refers to our own state, what I am after, how I am taking it.
This reminds me of a feeling that I and my wife commonly shared. So before getting into marriage, you are now entering into a total unknown. And you don't know what's going to happen. And you would like to get some sort of security from someone who can say that, okay, go ahead, you're going to be okay. But nobody can give such a guarantee, right? So you feel this insecurity at that point, and if someone to come up and say that, no doubt, 100% you're going to be good. Nobody could have given this to me. Even myself was not able to say it to my wife, saying that I'm going to be the best guy, no worries. I cannot even guarantee myself about myself. So we have this insecurity, and we are in very much need of someone, and you feel this a lot for, I guess, when entering marriage, because it's a big unknown and it really affects the rest of your life. So you really feel it, someone to come up and tell you, and nobody can do that. So now the question is about my life, my existence, what's going to happen. And I am in need of someone who is really going to tell me where this road is going to. Is it going to, where is this road ending up? I don't, because it doesn't seem, I cannot see where this road is going to. There's a curvature, and I cannot see anything beyond the curvature. So where is this going to? And I need someone to come up and say with solid evidences or with some sort of security, he himself being secure, also giving me security about where this road is leading to. So this is why what the messenger says is so much fundamental for my life.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. I take this to mean, I think what you just said, Brother Yusuf, he is not making claims. I guess if you were to see how he describes about the future, it is not in a kind of a claim-like fashion, but it is very strongly established with evidence. It is very strongly established with truth. So, you know, it's not just a kind of a hearsay like thing. So if it's truth here, I understand. If you read that yourself, truly, how do you know about the future? It only knows about the future. I think this to mean truly, meaning he does not just give claims; he gives evidences about the hereafter. It's in his teachings to disclose the evidences for the future of the and the hereafter. And his teachings are bringing evidences of how this world is a tiny mirage in comparison. Not a kind of hearsay or claim or guess, of course, but something solid that one can rest their real heart in. Which I guess, that's the confidence level issue, but the other issue of it's within his teachings to discuss matters like this, which no one else talks about.
Any comment, question in regard to what we discussed, what Adam just said? So we can continue with the 11th droplet. So let me give a few more seconds if there's some shy person waiting for the last moment to speak. Okay, let's continue with the 11th droplet. Could someone else read it, like other than me? We have many participants today. Any volunteer for reading the 11th? Okay, go ahead.
Bismillah. 11th droplet. For sure, wonders await us under the apparent veil of the universe, which is thus strange and perplexing. Wow. Wonders await us under the apparent veil of the universe. So the veil of the universe, which is thus strange and perplexing. So one thus wonderful and extraordinary, a displayer of marvels, is necessary to tell of its wonders. So one thus wonderful and extraordinary, a displayer of marvels, is necessary to tell of its wonders. So by its wonders, I'm assuming whatever the meaning of the universe, or whatever the veiled universe reveals to us, and there's something wonderful behind it. And there must necessarily be somebody who must really tell us about that. What is those wonderful things that are behind, like that await us. And he's saying all these wonders which are under an apparent veil of the universe is thus strange and perplexing. So this again tells me about the human being, when he's really living in this universe and really trying to make sense of the universe. How needy one is to know the meaning side of it. And there is a need for a human being that somebody should tell what the meaning is, because everything is so strange and it's wonderful, but I don't know what, the sky is there, the wind is, there's breeze, and I'm here with all my feelings and senses. What strange, something really, really perplexing. Why is it like that? And there's the necessary need for me to know what is behind this. So that's at least what I took away from these two sentences. I'll continue reading. It is apparent from that being's conduct that he has seen them. It is apparent from that being's conduct that he has seen them. Seen them referring to the wonders, I'm assuming, and sees them, again referring to the wonders. So somebody who has experienced them, these wonders, and still is experiencing them, and says that he has seen them, and that's what this being shares with the rest of mankind. And he, referring to this being, instructs us most soundly concerning what the God of the heavens and the earth. And he instructs us most soundly concerning what the God of the heavens and the earth, who nurtures us with his bounties, wants and desires of us. Who nurtures us with his bounties, wants and desires of us. So there's solid evidence, and he's highlighting that to mankind, concerning that there is a being or a source behind it, the one who is in charge of, who controls the heavens and the earth, and who is really nurturing, being taking care of everybody's needs, who nurtures us with his bounties. So our needs are really taken care of by all the things that we experience, all the bounties, referring to everything that we are really in our existence, all the things that we are benefiting from, including the material side. For example, food that we eat, and relationships that we have, and the feelings that we get, and the happiness and the sadness, all these things. We are being nurtured and taken care of, wants and desires of us. Everyone should therefore leave everything. Everyone should therefore leave everything and run to and heed this being. Oh my God, this is so serious. Everyone should therefore leave everything and run to and heed this being, who teaches numerous other necessary and curiosity-arousing truths like these. So how is it that most people are deaf and blind and mad even, so that they do not see this truth and they do not listen to it and understand it? Oh, some serious questions there. I will stop here for your comments.
Thank you, Asim. With your dramatic reading, everything becomes more interesting. Jazakallah khair. For sure, wonders await us under the apparent veil of the universe, which is thus strange and perplexing. So in the original text, he used the same word for wonders and strange and perplexing, ajay, right? Ajib. And so it's interesting. It says, like, when we look at the universe, everything is so strange. Like, we're trying to find a meaning, trying to understand the mechanisms. Everything's so strange. Like, anytime we claim that we understood something, something else comes into the equation, and we say, well, we missed this part, so we don't understand yet. But it says, if you realize that this is just a veil, the strangeness is just a veil, more strange things, or maybe more curiosity arousing things waiting for you under the veil. So wonders, wailing wonders. For sure, wonders await us under the apparent veil of the universe, which is thus strange and perplexing. So one does wonderful and extraordinary. So one does wonderful and extraordinary, a display of marvels is necessary to tell of its wonders. So what do we understand here?
I'm thinking about what makes me wonder. For example, I have never done scuba diving. And when I see the pictures of it, it's really wondrous for me because it looks like Alice in Wonderland. I've never been there. It's really beautiful colors under the water. The water is very clear, and all these reefs and fishes are very beautiful colors, very beautiful geometry and everything. So, and if I were to be born in there, most likely the things in this side of the world would be wondrous for me. So I guess the problem with me is getting used to things. Otherwise, the things themselves are wondrous because of their attracting colors and shapes and everything, or the way that they're being created. So I'm just putting myself in the shoes of others. I can say that everything in this existence is really wondrous. They are really extraordinary. I wouldn't expect such things to happen by themselves or randomly. So this being the case, but I cannot figure out the purpose behind them or the meaning behind them. For example, when I go to art museum, Philadelphia Museum of Art, I just look at them. I do not spend more than a minute or a half minute in front of a picture. I look at it. It's just a mixture of colors to me, doesn't mean much. And I pass by. But apparently people are paying millions of dollars for those, I mean the collectors, for keeping them. Apparently it means a lot, but for me, I do not know how to make sense of them. So that's why I'm in need of someone to tell me what this picture means, what that other picture means, or why this color is being chosen and the other picture chooses a different style and color, whatever. So now in the existence, all the things are much more wondrous than Philadelphia Museum of Art. Yet who is going to tell me what they refer to? What is behind those beautiful things? Why blue fishes are blue and red fishes are red, or why there's death, why there is newborns. These are very, newborn itself is a miracle, as they say. But death is another thing which is in front of all of us, which is another wondrous thing. But what is the meaning behind that? Why is this happening? Why is this taking place? So I am in need of someone who is going to tell me about what it really means. And this shouldn't be, as we were speaking before, it shouldn't be like a yes, or when everybody says something, here is my mumbo jumbo. It shouldn't be this sort of, okay, here is my random stuff. But it should be somebody went through it, experienced it, and said that I tried it and it works, and here I am sharing it with you now. Then I will take it and experience it for myself and agree upon what this person was saying, and I would say that, well, this is the most useful thing on earth for me. It's much more useful than any medicine because it's really curing a fundamental problem of me. I'm trying to make sense of the existence. This was my ultimate need because my worries are all about my existence. Where am I going to? And this person is coming up with an explanation. This really solves my riddles, solves all my problems. So I should stop everything, doing everything as he's saying, and focus on trying to get to know what this person is saying. Because the real value is out there. But then the author is saying that although this is the case, although I must be focusing with my own full capacity to his message, what is happening to the people, to us, that we become deaf and dumb and or blind, so that we do not listen to or heed to his message. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين